What's going on, everybody? It's a live show on a Wednesday, and you know it wouldn't be the Fantasy First Rounders if there wasn't a little bit of technical difficulties. Obviously, last time Tom's dog was walking him. Now Tom's dog is rebooting Tom's computer. So here's our intro, guys. Welcome. Welcome in, everybody. I'm your host, Chris Pinto. With me, as always, are my partners in crime, my cohorts in chasing the championships, Ryan Hicks, Billy Witt, and on the way, oh, look, here we go. Tom, baby, everybody coming in hot now. What's going on, everybody? How are y'all doing tonight on this lovely Wednesday?
Doing well.
Can't complain, brother.
I think we're out
Awesome,
of place,
awesome.
though. Me and Billy are out of place.
Oh, God, you're right. I gotta mess something up at the very beginning, right? So, man, we got the chat going on. What's going on, everybody? Thank you for tuning in. What's going on, Marco Ayala, the A team, baby? That's a good show. I get to be Bradley Cooper, though. Okay. Moving forward, though, we're gonna talk about wide receivers. We talked about them last time as our consensus rankings. And when we were going through our consensus, obviously when Ryan inputs these in, he'll see differences and he'll make little comments in our group chat and things like that. And we found out that we are actually divided on a couple of them, more than a couple. So we like to do this little midway show, I guess, to elaborate, especially on the wide receivers, which some say are the deepest position, but as Ryan and I talked about earlier, they're deep, but the targets that are guaranteed are not. So y'all want to jump in? Anything you want to talk about? Oh, real quick, everybody, shout out to the Journey Division. We are flying by. We've got a guy, Kurt, who is amazing. He's in Johannesburg, South Africa, and he's up until 11:30 at night. Then he's setting a queue. He's always up. He's ready to rock and roll. He is the heart and soul of the Journey Division. Shout out to Steffi Smalls, Bob Lung, and Cole, and obviously, of course, Starfania Bell. Billy, give a shout out to your Scott Fishbowl division.
Yeah, Incubus division. We're rolling hot and heavy here, finishing up the 9th round. Ryan, your boy Mike Gesicki just went right there at the 9-11 pick. So hopefully he might be back. But so Sammy Reed, Roto Grinders, who just took your boy, and we got a lot of fun. Andrew Hall from Fantasy Pros keeps sniping me, and also Armando Marcel and I having a lot of fun going back and forth after he picked Wentz right before me in the 4th round. So loading up on running backs, doing what we do.
Speaking about doing what you're doing, I have to we'll talk about it later. I'll probably pull up my Scott Fishbowl team later because I can do that now because I know how to work these the computer. But man, let's see. How do I do this? There we go. Guys, this is the wide receiver gauntlet. We're going to be throwing down. Obviously, you can see our little icons, right? Cheetahs are like dragons. What does that mean? I don't know. We'll find out. AJB, obviously, still the wide receiver 1 in most people's minds. I'm obviously going to tell you a narrative and remind you about Kyler and Cliff Kingsbury at some point throughout the show. If I don't or mention Sean McVay, you can probably call the FBI or somebody because it's not me. And then, obviously, Tom will have some sort of mic drop, and I couldn't figure out what to write for you this week, Tom, because you've been out in the Outer Banks getting wild, enjoying freedom. So I just said, you know what? Wide receivers, fire Howie anyway. Figured you'd appreciate that.
You always got to say fire Howie.
The Wentz banner is down in Philly, by the way.
Ooh.
Finally.
So, guys, let's got it on the presenter window. Okay, so what we're looking at tonight to talk about, guys, are these wide receivers in particular. At the bottom, you can see that we've got a couple grouped together, some teammates, if you would, and those will be sprinkled out throughout the stream, and those will be a true debate on who do you like better in the offense? It doesn't really essentially have to be one-on-one. It could be value plays, but we'll talk about them for you just because we're gearing everybody up for the redraft season. Looking at this, obviously, you can see that we're looking at, let me make this a little bit bigger for everyone at home. So A.J. Brown, Tyreek Hill, DeAndre Hopkins, Calvin Ridley, Michael Thomas, Allen Robinson, Robert Woods, DJ Chark Jr., Tyler Lockett, Marquise Brown, Gabriel Davis, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. So these are the guys that we will be essentially running through the gauntlet, who we, through our consensus, have found higher or lower. What's going on, the good old boys? One of our favorite podcasts out there, Good Old Boys FF. Check them out. They are hot fire. Yeah, real quick, Tom, I had to tag you in this. Our buddy Marco. If you haven't seen that yet, all the Dallas Cowboys are rising in our rankings, especially mine. Zeke he might be my running back one again by the time the season starts. I don't know. I have to watch Hard Knocks first. So tune into HBO. HBO, plug for you. There you go. So, guys, do y'all want to talk about any of these real quick before we get into them? I know I've been kind of going really quickly, but we've done a lot of research on these guys, obviously, over the past 2 weeks, and I know we've got a lot to talk about. So we normally do like a 2-hour-long show. We can probably do about 4 hours on these guys. So what do you think?
I'm just excited about AJB. Anytime we get to talk about him, I get really happy.
A lot of big dogs here. A lot of fun. A lot of guys up and down the list. And some guys that we're kind of split on, too. So it'll be some fun conversation for sure.
Fair enough.
Tell you what, the one that's probably surprising is Paris Campbell. More there than you think.
Oh, boy. Wonder when we're going to get to him. Well, let's talk about the guy that obviously Ryan wants to talk about. Our consensus number one wide receiver on the year for the 2021 season, A.J. Brown, standing at 6 foot 226 out of the Ole Miss University Running Rebels, out of the second round in the 2019 draft, drafted ahead of teammate DK Metcalf, is A.J. Brown, our number one wide receiver on the season. You can see his stat line down there, and you can see where we have him as our rankings. Tom and Ryan have him as their number one guy. Billy and I are a little bit lower. Obviously, us not having him at number one doesn't mean we don't think he can be the number one guy. It just means that we think there are other guys that are going to hit that before he does, but he still has that potential. So, you know what, Billy, why don't you kick us off, and then we'll get to Ryan and Tom, because obviously they could talk for days on this, so we'll have to cut them off shortly. But, Billy, you kick us off first on AJB.
Yeah, so I have him as my wide receiver 6. Finished last season as wide receiver 1. As a wide receiver 1, 17.5 yards per catch career guy in an offense where he only sees about 6.5 targets per game. So, the volume hasn't been there for a guy that's in that upper echelon, talent-wise especially, but I don't think Julio eats into his progression that we've seen. I think he continues to grow. I actually think Julio helps AJB get a lot more one-on-one situations, and that's going to be an issue for defenses. So I expect the offense to pass a solid amount more than they did in the prior season with Todd Downing calling the plays. He's a guy who cut his teeth with the Mark Bulger Rams, Matt Stafford's big dog seasons, and Derek Carr with Del Rio there like we talked about before. And there's already 192 total vacated targets in this offense. So A.J. Brown definitely has an opportunity to be one of those top-notch guys. Even though the volume in the passing game, I think it's going to grow. Even if it doesn't, he has an opportunity for his target share to grow immensely, even with Julio on the other side of the field.
Totally agree. And there's one thing that you said that I really gravitated towards, Billy, was that Julio is not going to eat into AJB's targets. We were talking about this. Obviously, we were doing our projections, right? And I thought the same thing. At first, I was like, Julio's going to get into AJB's something, right? Some point, somewhere, somehow. I don't know what's going to happen, but it's going to happen. And I was looking at it, and I was like, man, it's really Firkser. And that's what Ryan and you both said, too. Josh Reynolds, nothing anymore, right? Sorry, Josh Reynolds. You know my love for you, baby. But there's a bunch of Aggies on this team, so you really got to like it. AJB, though, for me, the only reason I'm a little lower on him than most is just a couple things, right? So he's phenomenal, right? His efficiency is great. His 2020 season was phenomenal. He doesn't need any more work really to produce. But this is what really got me. His contested catch rate is at 58.3% on 25 targets. That's number 25 in the league. It's not great, not good, but not great. And this is what being such a big frame guy and so fast at 4.49, you think that he would be able to get away from these defenders, but his separation is only 1.47 yards. That's 79th in the league. That's not very good, right? Obviously, we know what kind of animal he is, so maybe these stats don't really back it up. I'm going to have to look more into this, but that was just really, that stuck out to me. Another thing was his decreases over his years. Yes, he's been very efficient. Yes, he is a dominant monster, but this is the yikes factor for me. He's decreased in yards per target, yards per route, decreased when the quarterback is targeted, decreased in yak, and also decreased in what matters to us guys, fantasy points per touch. That's not huge, 6%, so a little bit of dip, but his decrease in yak, 17% almost. When the quarterback is targeting, he's seen almost a 12% dip in quarterback targeting, and that's Ryan Tannehill, right? We know how efficient that guy is. And his PPR rank, he's only been a 12th ranked guy in PPR ranking, right? 31st and then 12th. So I have some concerns on AJ Brown. Obviously, I think he's the man. I drafted him in Scott Fishbowl, but tell me why I'm wrong, Ryan.
I mean, he's the truth. What he is a physical specimen. I get what you're saying about the decreases in the yards per catch and yards per target, but those were astronomical numbers his rookie year, really not sustainable for a career. You're still looking at 15.4 yards per catch, and his yards per target was still in double digits at 10.1. He increased his catch percentage from year 1 to year 2, which is something that I really wanted to see because we know what we can do with the ball in his hands. So if he can get up, get more sure hands, and which he did do from year 1 to year 2. And reminder, once again, this is a year 3 receiver. Oftentimes receivers break out in year 3. Now, obviously he's already broken out, but what you're looking at here is an absolute machine. I have him projections going for 149 targets. I don't think that's unreasonable, especially considering their 17 games, which would translate what I have is that 103 catches for 1669 yards and 15 touchdowns. That's a wide receiver 1 season. Obviously, my projections are a little aggressive. Y'all know how much I like AJ Brown, so I understand if you don't think that those projections mean anything. But this is what I'm seeing in this offense with Julio updated. That's what I look at. And that's just heads and tails far and away. Devontae's right there with him. And then there's a gap for me in my projections. It's just nobody has the kind of ball skills in the open field like this guy does.
Yeah, I mean, Ryan nailed it on the head there as far as, kind of it's not a good way to put it, but a sophomore slump, if you will, with the yards per reception, yards per target. But nailed it with the catch percentage going up. One of the things that we haven't really talked about, though, is his number 2 receiver that's gone now in Corey Davis. Obviously, you bring in Julio Jones to replace him. And looking at Corey Davis's stat line last year, I think it's going to be pretty in line with what we'll see Julio get this year. Obviously add a game to it here, 17 game season versus 16 last year. In 14 of those games last year for Corey Davis, he had 984 yards, 15.1 per reception, 5 touchdowns on 65 receptions and 92 total targets. I don't think that's entirely off from what we'll actually see Julio produce on this team, right? I think it's going to be fairly similar. Again, just adding that extra game to it, pushing 1,000 yards. And the best news for AJ Brown here is I don't think Julio eats into the touchdown share. This is a team that, when they get into the red zone, they do give it to Derrick Henry a lot. And we know, we've talked about it a million times, Julio Jones isn't the guy that gets in the end zone. I don't think that changes. So that 11 touchdowns is a pretty safe floor, I think, for AJ Brown going forward.
Yeah. Like I said, we all think that he's the number 1 guy in that offense, can be the number 1 guy going forward. So really not too much more to discuss on AJ Brown. Elite level status, obviously. So draft him if you can. Going on to number 2, another guy that's pretty much an auto draft and everywhere. A lot of people's number 1 guy, right? He was Billy's number 1 guy. Our consensus number 3, TYREEK the Freak, a.k.a. the Cheetah Hill, right? 5'10", 185 out of West Alabama. Drafted at a value in the 5th round. 4.34 speed when they really clocked you, not with the coach's hand, as we like to say. Look at the stats. He's obviously the man. Patrick Mahomes is his quarterback. So obviously with Patrick Mahomes as your quarterback, you're going to be able to do crazy fire things. So we've got Billy and myself on the left, Ryan and Tom on the right. We kicked it off with Billy and myself last time. Let's kick it off. Let's kick it back to Tom and Ryan. So, Tom, Ryan, you go first. Tyreek Hill, like I mentioned earlier, you don't think that he cannot be the number one guy. He can be. He's just a little lower for you. So, what's your assessment on Tyreek?
Right. Well, initially, what I'm looking at is Travis Kelce. I'm looking at CEH being a very capable receiving back. I'm looking at a breakout from Mecole Hardman. It's just a lot of mouths to feed in an offense that's really best off when it's wide open and everybody can get looks. So I'm projecting Hill to have 151 targets. I mean, that translates for me to 99 catches. That's a great season. Like, especially with what he does with the ball, he'll also probably get one on the ground, just the kind of athlete he is. Yeah, I'm targeting Tyreek Hill. It's just I have AJB and then Devontae Adams, who was the wide receiver one last year. I think everybody can see that happening again. And then Diggs, just from the growth with Allen. I couldn't ignore those Diggs numbers last year, and I don't see why Allen would regress. Diggs is you're splitting hairs with Diggs and Tyreek for me. I think it's literally it is 0.3 points Diggs has over Tyreek. So he's really basically tied for third.
Sure. Tom, lowest one, you have him at 6. Not that big of a deal. What's your assessment on the Cheetah?
Yeah, right there with Ryan. It's less about Tyreek being not great as it is the guys that are quote unquote ahead of him on my ranking. I mean, we're talking about Devontae Adams, AJ Brown, DK Metcalf, Stephon Diggs, and Justin Jefferson. I think Jefferson probably the most out there of that group. Really hoping for kind of a big sophomore year from him, but this group is separated by tenths of a point or 1 or 2 points at most, right? This is going to be a very close group. If a guy misses a game, that's make or break for getting first versus fifth, I think. It's going to be really tight with all these guys. Tyreek, obviously an incredible athlete. And if he's there for you and you think he happens to be the number one, I don't think that's the wrong answer. Again, it's kind of up to personal preference with these top 5, 6, 7 guys.
For sure. And that's what we'll keep mentioning real quick. Billy, you can cap us off because this is your number one guy. I'll try to make it as quick as possible, but you guys know how I am with quicks. So the Cheetah, man, he's just a guy that, like I mentioned earlier, great value in the 5th round that they drafted him in 2016. Elite level speed, great hands, obviously all this and that. This is what most people aren't going to correlate to that I will, right? He's a guy who wanted an opportunity, who saw the field, got on the field, and never looked back. Real quick, before I get into the stats, BJ Howard, the next biggest thing. Let's go. I just want the chance. Let's go, guys. Tyreek and myself, he hit the field. He hit the field at a 39% snap share rate, right? As a rookie, increased that to almost 80% and never looked back. He increased astronomically, 297% increase on his air yards from 500 to 1713. He's had 3 top 5 seasons. He's increased his target share from 15% to 23%. And the quarterback when targeting Tyreek is unbelievable. A 111.7 now to a 133 with Patrick Mahomes. He's also a dual threat. Obviously, he can return the ball. But what you have to realize is in the NFL, you can count on Tyreek Hill running the ball. You can average it out. 16 rushes, 118 yards, and 1 touchdown given every season to Tyreek Hill. There's not many wide receivers in the league that can do that. We'll talk about another one of those guys here shortly, though. But Tyreek Hill, just a phenomenal athlete. You got to love him. And Billy the Dragon, man, cheetahs and dragons, they're pretty much the same thing, right?
Yeah, pretty close. Tyreek, my wide receiver one. I love speed wide receivers, and Tyreek Hill is that dude. He's the scariest wheels in the entire NFL. And he plays with one of maybe 2 men on the planet that can overthrow him. He's going to average 8 to 9 targets a game. Last year he had 7 games with 10 or more targets, and 6 times from week 7 on. He scored touchdowns in 12 of his 15 games and multiple touchdowns 4 times. So he had those huge explosions like that 50-plus point effort against Tampa Bay. And that was in a 4-game stretch of 25, 33, 27, capped off by that big boom 57 points. So I love the player. I love the situation. He's in his prime, and his floor is ridiculous to me. So that's why Tyreek Hill is my wide receiver one.
No one's faulting you for that. Like I said, Patrick Mahomes, your quarterback boy, you can do anything you want to do.
Absolutely.
Does anyone have anything else you want to add to the Tyreek Hill situation?
I just want to mention, don't forget, this is a guy that converted from running back to wide receiver coming into the NFL. He was a running back in college.
Yeah,
that's
he moves
big.
like one too. He moves like one.
He does. But that's an impressive, conversion from running back to receiver like that.
Absolutely. A guy who really didn't have to convert except for first downs for the Houston Texans with a plethora of quarterbacks is Nuke Hopkins, my number 1 guy, our consensus number 6 guy. So we'll talk about Nuke real quick. As you can see down at the bottom, I stand alone on Nuke, but that's okay. Nuke Hopkins, I've watched forever, right? His accolades are for days. His stature, his grace. He's kind of above the rest. He's an elite level guy. Last year, wide receiver number 4, 1,400 yards. Golly. Ryan, Billy, y'all, Tom, number 7. Ooh, the disrespect for my Nuke Hopkins never stops, but that's okay. You know what, Billy, you started off because you're not going to cut me as deep as Tom or Ryan will. So I want the blow to be soft first. So 5. Let's go to number 5 first. What do you have for me on Nuke?
He's my wide receiver 5 doing my rankings, likely moving up as I finish my projections. But one of the most consistently dominant wide receivers from a fantasy standpoint in NFL history. I mean, top 5 in 5 of the last 6 seasons. He's a lock for 150 targets and 100 reception. Feels like a given for DeAndre Hopkins. So 5 1,200 yard seasons, and he's only been below 1,165 yards twice in his 8 seasons. So with A.J. Green coming to Arizona, I could see Nuke getting in the end zone a lot more. He's not as easy to key on in the red zone with another tall red zone jump ball type target with A.J. Green. I have him projected to have a monster season with 123 receptions, 1,534 yards, and 14 scores, which would be his best season for receptions and touchdowns, but only by 8 receptions and a single touchdown. So I think I might be kind of dialed back for what he's capable of in that Cliff Kingsbury offense we talk about so often, and Kyler Murray just growing by the week. So really excited about what Nuke can do this year.
Tom, all right. I know you're going to be the worst, so let's go. Let's hear it.
I'll tell you what, I don't think it's that bad, to be honest. Like I said, it's that top 6, 7 guys. It's pretty interchangeable. DeAndre Hopkins, definitely a guy that could easily land himself in the top 10 at the end of the season, right? Excuse me. The biggest reason I have him down there is A.J. Green. Well, he might not be the A.J. Green that we all knew and loved back in Cincinnati 7, 8, 10 years ago. It feels like it's been that long at least. He's definitely much more mobile, much more athletic than Larry Fitzgerald was. When I look at the target spread last year, DeAndre Hopkins, 160 targets, Christian Kirk, 79. I don't think that'll necessarily change. Christian Kirk, a lot of potential for who he is. And Larry Fitzgerald had 72. The rest of the team, an extra 65 thrown in there to the rest of the team. I don't see DeAndre Hopkins' target share necessarily increasing. If anything, it could decrease very slightly. Again, A.J. Green gained a couple extra targets compared to Larry Fitzgerald. There's touchdowns, 6 last year isn't overly impressive. Looking out at the rest of his career, I mean, only 3 seasons in double digits. So it's not like it's a crazy thing for him to be at 6 touchdowns again this year. And that doesn't necessarily boost him up, last year at wide receiver 4. I think he's right around that wide receiver 5 mark. I think that is a pretty good area, plus or minus 1 or 2.
Plus or minus 4. Ryan, you're up.
Here's the deal. Like, he's just a few points below the guy we'll be talking about next for me. That's how he winds up at 7. But I agree. He's one of the guys that you could look legitimately at and say, okay, this guy could be wide receiver 1. This is a real possibility for him, obviously. The volume is going to be there. It's just, again, there's guys that I think I like more based on the situation. Like, I'm not sold all the way on Kingsbury's offense here. And then I think that Christian Kirk has been underutilized, which frustrates me. I don't know. I'm a little bit curious to see this year. I mean, it could be Nuke at 1. I get why you're doing that, Pinto. I really do. It's just the guys, I feel more sure about the guys having the big years like AJB and Diggs. And I feel like Hopkins is just super safe wide receiver that is guaranteed wide receiver 1 status. So, again, 7, yeah, it's low compared to you, but I'm really not low on Hopkins. I have my fair share of him.
For sure. I was going to stop and sit. That's why I got us down to the little 4 screen, because you said wide receiver 1 and all I heard was wide receiver 1. And I was like, wait a second, that's not what he Okay, and I put it all together. That's fine.
Yeah, wide receiver 1 category, top 12.
Ish.
For
Right,
sure.
right.
Yeah, for sure, top 12.
Okay, so here we go, everybody. Let me regale you on a tale about Nuke Hopkins, right? Nuke Hopkins has not always been the Nuke Hopkins that we know, right? New fantasy football players have seen Nuke Hopkins in the Cardinal red, used to be wearing battle red. And it didn't always have to be Deshaun Watson back then. There was Brock Osweiler. There's a whole slew of quarterback. Matt Schaub was up in that thing. I mean, Case Keenum, I think, was there. I don't know. I mean, Jimbo Fisher was probably throwing the ball. I don't know who else was throwing him the ball. Will Fuller probably threw him the ball once or twice. But DeAndre Hopkins has not always been where he has, right? Cliff Kingsbury offense needs time, right? This is his second season with him. Nuke's dominance is a cut above the rest. What I can tell you about Nuke is he gives it 110% every time, and his numbers show that, right? His route participation is 100%. That's tied for number 1 in the league. His targets, number 2, 160, 10 per game. His target share, 29.4, number 2 in the league, right? Number 2s across the board in receptions, 115, 7.2 per game. Receiving yards, 1407, so 87.9 per game. That's number 2. Yak, 3.4 per target, so 547. That's number 2 in the league. Like, he doesn't stop being number 1 or number 2 across the board in effort and things that we can measure, right? Now he's with Killer Kyler. He's with this high-powered Cliff Kingsbury offense, right? Do we have to mention how many times, guys? How many times do I have to mention Cliff Kingsbury, son of Texas, Kyler Murray, former Texan, right? It all works. And then Nuke Hopkins played in Texas. He's essentially a native Texan. We give him the thing, right? So Nuke Hopkins is my number 1 guy because I know he's going to ascend. Pang, what's going on, Davis? I'll mention it again, man. Nuke Hopkins, number 1 wide receiver. Look at where Kyler Murray's going in drafts, right? Everyone's drafting him as a quarterback 1. Nuke Hopkins. Here's another little fun fact, right? Last season, and I'm going to bring all 4 of us into this because there's 4 of us, right? Last season, the top 4 quarterbacks also had their partners in the top 4. So that is the first time that has ever happened in 50 years at least that I looked into. That will continue this year, just the way the offenses are rolling. So everyone knows Cliff Kingsbury. Y'all seen where he drafts out of. That boy needs some other things. So it is unreal, isn't it? He just was mentioning, like, it doesn't matter who's throwing him the ball. He's catching the ball, and he's putting up 1,000 yards. So 6 touchdowns last season. That increases for me. I think I've got him, 330 points as my wide receiver 1 on the year. That's all I got on Nuke, right? I can keep on talking, but let's not do that. This guy that I was super, weirded out about, Calvin Ridley, and you guys pretty much changed my mind on him, obviously. Look, I've got him at number 8. He's our consensus number 8. Billy's the lowest on him. We'll let Billy finish because I think I'm more along the lines of Billy. And I'll go first, right? I'll just kind of go with my concerns really quickly, right, about Calvin Ridley. For me, Calvin Ridley, yes, he has been like the 1B to Julio, right? Julio always hasn't been there, and he's had to be the number 1 guy. But he was never thrust into that role. Now he's thrust into that role. His accolades across the board are extremely good, right? Measurable across the board. Number 1 in deep yards. Number 1 in air or deep targets, 40. Number 1 in air yards. Number 1 in targets, right? And then this is what I really like, right? His red zone targets. He's number 2. 22 red zone targets. That's what Julio needed, right? I think that increases, right? So that's why I've got him at 8. Ryan, you're under me. Go ahead, go.
Yeah, just for me, there's going to be so much volume in this offense without Julio. Atlanta is not going to be able to do much of stopping anybody. They're not really going to have an effective run game, so they're going to have to launch it. And I like Ridley because of that. The targets are going to be there. He's right there for me. There is a drop-off from Hopkins, who I had at 7, and Ridley, who I have at 8, of about 25 points. But I got him at 297. Like, this guy is right there in the next tier of elite guys. He's going to get so much volume, it's kind of bonkers. The ineffectiveness of Atlanta is going to produce more volume for Calvin Ridley, and it's hard to argue with the volume that he's going to see.
Agreed. That's agreed, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I will say Calvin Ridley intrigues me, right? This is a guy that has all the potential in the world. And when I look at this offense, it's kind of intriguing to me in this sense, right? when you look at how people line up in the slot last year, Calvin Ridley, 306 plays in the slot, Hayden Hurst, 328, Russell Gage, 561. He only lined up outside 167 times. I could see him ending up outside more often this year. I think he's still the slot receiver for them, but the way I picture this offense is Calvin Ridley outside, Russell Gage outside, Kyle Pitts in the slot, and Hayden Hurst in the slot. Or excuse me, Hayden Hurst at tight end. So I think Calvin Ridley is going to be your dominant receiver. Russell Gage could have a great season behind him and help kind of lead up that dominance of Calvin Ridley if you have a good wide receiver too. Beyond that, this team is nothing special. So I think that's where you're going to get the majority of targets going to Pitts and your boy Calvin Ridley here. So that's where he ends up at wide receiver 8.
All right, Billy, the Dragon. Bring me back to earth on Calvin Ridley.
Yeah, I know I'm the lowest on Calvin Ridley, but I do like Calvin Ridley. I mean, wide receiver 12's not that low. That's the bottom end of the wide receiver 1 range. So, no Julio scaring some people away, and there is some Kyle Pitts delirium, but Ridley had 100 yards or more in 6 games that Julio was on the sideline for last season out of the 9 games that he missed. He did have a drastic drop in his catch percentage, but he had a huge jump in targets as well, so that's kind of to be expected. There's no way Ridley has less than 150 targets and should be within striking distance of 100 catches, and that's why he's my wide receiver 12, but I do expect this Falcons offense to cool off a bit with Julio gone and a run-heavy regime coming to the Georgia Dome, but I still like Ridley as a low-end wide receiver 1, and you're getting him right about that range in fantasy drafts.
I just don't know what I'm going to do with Calvin Ridley. I think I'm still going to shy away from him in most of my leagues. It's just too. I think Ryan or Tom mentioned that offense is just like a dumpster fire outside of some of the pieces. So the defense is bad. I guess I don't know what's going on down there. I was hoping that they were going to get your boy Billy Najee, but that didn't work out. So face of the offense change. A guy that needs to change some things. Even according to his own teammates, is his route tree. I'm sorry. We just got our first battle in here. Michael Pittman versus Paris Campbell. The Indianapolis Colts wide receivers. John. I can't write. Okay, you're right. So Michael Pittman Jr., Paris Campbell, right? You can see where our rankings are, 29 and 73 on the consensus. You can see where we've ranked both these guys. And this is going to be one of the things I was talking about at the beginning of the show, right? This isn't more of a one-on-one type. This is more of a value type play like we talked about last season with Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb. If you went with someone on this show, you would have done well. If you would have went with the other guys, you would have been like still well, but I would have been really smug with you. I'm sorry. You don't even get to see what I'm looking at right now. I'm sorry. You're looking at Paris Campbell and Michael Pittman Jr. Okay, so we'll take it back to here. Tom, why don't you kick us off first on this, and we'll keep it on the 4 screen right here so we can all just kind of deliberate. Where are you going? Are you going to take the Michael Pittman Jr. route, or are you going to go with the value? And, that's a pretty big difference for you on the two.
It's a pretty big difference for both of them, I think. Obviously, number 14 on Michael Pittman Jr. is a huge jump. Billy at 28 is the next highest. Definitely a little bit of a hot take. I think Pittman Jr. is in a breakout season here. I think getting a new quarterback in there is big for him, somebody that can actually throw a ball more than about 4 yards. Carson Wentz, obviously last year, was not good. I think we're going to see a much better season from him behind one of the best offensive lines in the league. The narrative is there. Everyone's talked about it. Getting back with his old coach, blah, 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 blah. We all know it. Pittman is a very talented guy. He did miss a little bit of time last season. And Paris Campbell, again, a guy that's missed a lot of time. He only played in 7 games his rookie season, 2 last year. I mean, the way I see it breaking down is T.Y. being a bit of a decoy. He's a shell of himself. He's not who he used to be. You want to try and keep him healthy because that's true. When he's playing the Texans, he's going to snap on him and he's going to go for 300 yards a game. But the rest of the season, these are the two guys that you're going to be getting the majority of touches. And Zach Pascal could even be a very sneaky guy to even watch on waivers or on, the very last few rounds of your draft. But I think either one of these guys, depending on where you can get them, is a great pick. Like I said, Michael Pittman Jr., an absolute stud. I think he could push towards wide receiver 1 territory depending on what this offense looks like. But it's a big question mark. It's a risk, right? But I think the potential's there. And again, Paris Campbell, I'm at 50. I think he could push towards wide receiver 2 to 3 range, kind of that flex play, solid flex play. Again, if he's able to stay healthy, that's the biggest question for him. He hasn't done it so far, but if he does, he has the talent to do it.
Fair enough. Ryan, where are you going with these two? What's your assessment on these guys and how are you taking it?
Yeah, I'm not really going to
be.
I ain't going to be touching Paris Campbell too much, except as a late round flyer. And I know you guys you could see I'm the lowest. So one of you guys are likely going to snag him before he ever makes it to where I'm going to take him, since we're all in each other's drafts anyways. But Michael Pittman is a guy that I could see moving even a little bit higher up my board. I was just looking at what I had going on, and I honestly still have Hilton getting a big target share. And the more I think about it, the more I think that some of that's going to go to Pittman. He's the most gifted receiver on the roster. Campbell can't stay healthy. Pittman has the big body for the red zone targets. He's the package. We all kind of liked them last year. I recall talking about him. He's just a big old body with a quarterback that I know we are all kind of fond of as well, Carson Wentz. This offense with the ability to run the ball, I do want Michael Pittman. If I knew Paris Campbell was going to play 10 games, I might target him more, but I can't convince myself he's going to.
Billy, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, obviously two guys that I am fond of playing for my Colts, and I love Paris Campbell at Ohio State. He was an incredible playmaker, and I love the hype that is around Michael Pittman. But 28 to 72 for me, I'm kind of in the boat with Ryan on Paris Campbell, where I'm probably not going to be touching him much because there are people that think a little higher than him of that pretty much everywhere. So also one thing, very limited amount of NFL experience with these guys, and both are highly regarded as far as name value go, like I said, in the circles that you might be drafting with. But a lot of potential here on both sides, but I'm going to take Pittman, shy away from Campbell. Like Ryan said, big body guy. He did show that he is talented last year. He'll likely be the number one in this offense with Carson Wentz that we're all so excited about. And I do think if Campbell stays healthy, this could end up being like a preference situation, like a real poor man's Mike Evans, Chris Godwin type complement of a game. But hasn't been a better situation for either player than right now. But I need to see Campbell on the field before I'm investing in him anywhere in drafts.
Is Pinto?
Is he just waiting?
I was just waiting.
Pinto's,
I was composing myself because I was about to start talking, and then that's why I blew out. Then I realized I was on mute, but I didn't say anything, so we can't count that because I didn't say anything.
The warning.
Okay. It was a warning shot, right?
Yellow card.
I think I'm sleeping on Michael Pittman. You know how much I love the pedigree, the story on this kid out of USC. Every year he played 4 years, graduated. Obviously the pedigree of his dad who won a Super Bowl, but he just kept on excelling at USC. Comes to Indianapolis where we really like it. Now he's got a really good quarterback, got a really good running back that's finally going to get the ball. We think with Frank Wright calling the plays, who knows? I don't know. I'm going to have to reassess Michael Pittman Jr. I got him at 50, but I think there's 49 guys that are better than him right now, or at least my projections think so. Maybe I had Hilton too high. I don't know. We'll see. Hilton scares me. So that's just my assessment on these guys. I'm going to go with Paris
some of
Campbell.
that target share to Pittman, man.
Yeah, that's fair. But I think like Ryan said, like in a best ball type situation, I think Paris Campbell's like the guy that I'm probably going to go over Michael Pittman just because I'm looking at other guys at that Michael Pittman range, like a running back or something in my mind, I guess.
Very fair.
So now we will go and talk about the guy whose route tree got him in trouble with his own teammates, sent him home with a little scuffle that they had, is Michael Thomas, our consensus number 9 wide receiver on the year. I'm the lowest on him at 19. Billy second at 12, Tom at 11, Ryan at 6, a top 6 receiver for Ryan Hicks. Out of the Ohio State, right? Second rounder guy. We know what Michael Thomas can do with Drew Brees. Now let's see what he can do without him because he's going to have to. So Michael Thomas for me, right? He's just he got into a fight with his own teammate because his teammate called him slant boy. Like, if it hurts you that much, something's wrong. So I don't know what's going on, but when I'm looking at this, Michael Thomas is number 82 in the league at target separation. And he has 1 point. Oh, here we go. I'm sorry. I digress. So when Michael Thomas is in the game with Drew Brees, he has 1.36 yards of separation. When he's with a different quarterback, he has 1.45. We know Drew Brees is precision on point, so Michael Thomas didn't have to do too much. Now he's having to do a little bit more. Maybe that's what's hurting him. I don't know. We'll have to see. So that's all I got on Michael Thomas. I'm not talking too bad about him. Billy, you're up at number 12.
Yeah, Michael Thomas is the definition of a possession receiver. 11.5 yards per catch for over his career. He's never averaged over 10 yards per target in his career. Without Brees, I'm cooling off on Michael Thomas. I have him at that low end wide receiver 1 range as well, but I expect him to fall out a little bit further as I finish my projections. I'm really hoping that Jameis Winston wins the job for where I do own Michael Thomas. And if Jameis is named the starter, like you and I were talking before the show, Chris, it's obviously kind of a little bit of a boost because at least we know that Jameis is a gunslinger. He's going to target his main guy quite a bit. But things sure have changed since back when me and Ryan swapped DJ CHARK and Michael Thomas back in a Dynasty League. A little more to that trade. But, man, those are two guys that really have cooled off since last season.
He's talking now. He's talking now.
That's one, Chris. Now I got him at number 11 here, Michael Thomas. I mean, here's the thing. The Saints might not be very good this year. I don't know if anybody else thinks that, but looking at this squad, it's Michael Thomas, Traquan Smith, who I like, but I'll get more into that in a second. Marquez Callaway, Deontay Harris, Lil Jordan Humphrey, and your tight end is Nick Vannett and Adam Troutman. That's not great. Your best option is your running backs in Kamara and Murray. Good news is Jameis Winston got LASIK, so maybe he can figure out what color the jerseys are, but LASIK doesn't help color blindness. And then Taysom Hill, I like the guy, but it's not a great quarterback. The best thing that Michael Thomas has going for him is the target share has to go somewhere, right? Obviously, he's the best receiver. The problem is if he gets a lot of targets, he's probably getting a lot of double coverage because your other options are pretty crap. That's where personally, if I'm taking a receiver from this group, it's Traquan Smith. I think he's the forgotten guy. He's kind of getting pretty low ADP and he's kind of a steal. But Michael Thomas still going to get touches.
That was close. That was super close.
On the same player.
It was going to be real bad if it was. Is all that ish I was talking about Michael Thomas earlier. He's like, oh, shit. Ryan, number 6 on the board, wide receiver for you. Repping the Brothers of the Serpent. Go ahead.
So we have a guy who has basically been the wide receiver 1 every year up till last year. Like we all agreed coming into last year, this was the wide receiver 1. If I'm not mistaken, we at least all had him he was our consensus 1. I recall that. So I can't ignore the fact that he's had the kind of volume he has had. And like you said, who's going to take it from him this year? So for me, the volume is something that cannot be ignored. With my projections, man, I have him getting, 167 targets for 121 catches. Like 121 catches, obviously 17-game season, reminder. But that's just crazy. He led the league with 125, and then he had 149 in 2019, which was the record, which he shattered. I don't need him to be the big play guy. I need him to get me catches in a PPR league. And this guy gets catches like nobody else has. So if it's Jameis, I don't care if it's slants. I don't care where it's coming from or how it's happening. The volume for this guy is inarguable. He is the all-time leader for receptions in a season, and that just happened 2 years ago. He's turning 28. He's 28 this year. This is not a guy that's outside of his prime. This is the wide receiver 1 multiple times, still in his prime with a potential gunslinger.
Yes, we do, Billy. We do. Yeah, and then I have it in my Google Drive. We're talking about old stuff, our old rankings. So what we're talking about was when Ryan said, I think we had Michael Thomas our consensus, we did. I had Julio as my number 1, Michael Thomas as my number 3. And if you remember throughout the season, Michael Thomas finished number 95, Julio finished slightly higher. So,
Slightly
higher. Still higher, right? Still higher.
91-ish.
Great analysis.
We're splitting hairs, guys. We're not even talking about Julio right now. What are you guys talking about? Like
Number 1.
We're talking about Chicago Bears now. We're talking about the Chicago Bears, okay? We're talking about Chicago Bears. Allen Robinson II, okay? That's who we're talking about right now. Show some respect for one of 5 duos in the NFL in 2020 to go over 1,000 yards together, right? So 1,000 yards to David Montgomery, 1,000 yards to Allen Robinson. Allen Robinson II, our number 11 consensus wide receiver. Tom at number 9, Ryan at 10, Billy and I a little low at 14 on him for our consensus. Out of Tom's, the Penn State University. Go Nittany Lions and Trace McSorley. Did they play together, Tom? I'm not sure. Maybe you can tell me
They
that.
did not. They did not.
Okay.
That's
Fair
a
enough.
travesty.
So I'll go first real fast on the Allen Robinson thing, right? I like him. I think he's good. I like Justin Fields. I like David Montgomery, obviously. It's just Allen Robinson for me. So I don't know. The whole Michael Thomas thing kind of messed me up. So I'm not gonna talk bad about him. Billy, maybe you can.
Yeah, I'm like you. I think he's extremely underrated. Back-to-back top 10 years in Chicago. He's had some damn good seasons with not very good quarterbacks. But me sitting at 14, looking up at Ryan and Tom. Obviously, I'm still kind of underrating him compared to some guys too. But he's a target monster. He'll continue to command a considerable majority of the target share in Chicago, regardless of who's under center. But I'm all right with Andy Dalton being under center. CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper did fine last year. And when Fields gets the key to this thing, that's even more fun for Allen Robinson owners. So the lack of touchdowns kind of leave Allen Robinson on the outside, looking in at the top tier of fantasy guys. But hey, Scott Fishbowl participants, he's a first down monster, 6th in the NFL last year. So a nice value there with that half point per first down in Allen Robinson.
Yeah, man. A-Rob, you just can't argue with the volume. You can't argue with the volume.
I muted myself and I was laughing.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we'll see. That was on purpose, was it?
That was not on purpose that time. But you're up.
Yeah, again, I will reiterate, volume is huge here. Back-to-back seasons, over 150 targets. You can't argue with those numbers. This guy has consistently been elite. He's getting a quarterback upgrade no matter who it is that's starting. So for me, and then, okay, so Mooney is a good complementary receiver, but this guy is not like the best wide receiver 2 in the league. It's going to have to go to Robinson. Komet's developing, but I don't see him ripping all of the targets away from Robinson, who should once again, especially with the 17 games, go over 150 targets. You just can't argue with that kind of volume. We were talking about this earlier. The volume for some of these receivers is just preposterous. The guaranteed volume, and this guy gets as guaranteed a volume as you can get in this offense.
Use my own logic against me, Ryan. That hurts. That hurts a lot. Tom, top 10 wide receiver for Allen Robinson for you. I like it. I think it's spicy. I think he can do it, right? Justin Fields, if he is, well, who do you think is throwing him the ball?
I think, first of all, we are in debt. Thank you, Penn State. No, Allen Robinson, though, I think as far as who's throwing him the ball, probably for the first 1 to 2 weeks, it's Andy Dalton. I don't think he does anything wrong. I don't think he puts up 400-yard games and they decide by week 3 or 4 that they want to bring in the young buck, Justin Fields, and put him out there. Like I said, Andy Dalton is a fine quarterback. Not good. He's fine. So I don't think that hurts Allen Robinson in any way. I think the only thing that could hurt Allen Robinson is that target share. So we talked about kind of who's on that team with him. Obviously, Cole Kmet developing, David Montgomery, TYREEK Cohen's back, going to get a couple shares out of the backfield there receiving. But in that receiver room, you do have Darnell Mooney, who I'm a big fan of personally. Anthony Miller, Damiere Byrd. You did bring in Daz Newsome out of UNC. Not a bad option there. And then you do have the best boxer in the NFL in Javon Wims. Can't leave him out. But at the end of the day, Allen Robinson is one of the most consistently underrated wide receivers in the game. I was trying to find historical data. I didn't have enough time here, while we brought this up. But I was trying to see where his rankings were over the previous seasons. But this is a guy that, off the top of my head, I'm fairly confident to say he's been pushing wide receiver 1 most seasons, including back in Jacksonville. He was a pretty solid option. It's, he's never been a bad receiver, and I think he gets kind of forgotten. I think he's that guy that's the forgotten receiver in the NFL as far as these most talented guys go.
2 things. We cannot talk about Javon Wims ever again. He hurts me so deep. He was in this 32-man league that I had. Yes. And he was my wide receiver, and he got in that boxing fight, and
twice. You got in 2.
Yeah. And then he in the Nickelodeon game, he missed that walk-in touchdown that would have won me the week in the playoffs against Servino in that league.
Was he the one that dropped an F-bomb on Nickelodeon?
Yes.
Oh, I love it. Do you get points for that?
No, I didn't. Trubisky did.
You should get points for dropping an F-bomb on Nickelodeon on live TV.
Touchdown. That's worth 6 points in fantasy.
That's worth a win to me.
So, Tom, you mentioned the forgotten receiver in Allen Robinson. I think you're wrong. I think it's this guy.
No,
my man Bobby Trees.
Chris, he forgot.
Oh, he forgot.
Bobby Trees forgot.
Bobby Trees gonna do you right. Bobby Light, boys. We can see that he is our consensus number 19 guy. I might be way too high on him, but it's okay. He's my guy for me. I've got him at number 9 on the season. Tom at 29, Billy at 26, Ryan at 18. We can see last year he finished at wide receiver 14, 245 fantasy points, accolades for days. I like the Trojans at USC. Man, let's talk about him. Tom, you know what? No. Ryan, you start me off because you're going to build me up, right? So, Ryan, you got this. For Bobby Trees, man, show him a little bit of love.
Yeah, once again, I feel like a broken record, but look at this guy's volume. Every time he's getting the numbers that I want to see. It's 2 straight seasons with 90 catches, 139 targets the first year, 129 last year, so he increased his catch rate and efficiency. His yards per target were down, but Jared Goff was his quarterback. We need to keep that in consideration. That being said, Robert Woods hasn't really been a deep guy in his career for the most part. More so than Cooper Kupp is, though, I would say. So I think that he's going to be the guy that kind of emerges from this wide receiver 1-2 tandem that we all – I know we like Kupp too, but for me, Woods is the guy that I'm going to be looking at this year. He's the guy that I want to get exposure to. When I look at my projections for him, 18, I get why you're so high on him, Pinto, because here's the other thing that I wanted to mention. He always contributes something on the ground game. I'm projecting him for 31 carries this year, scoring 2 touchdowns with those carries. And then to top it off, another 90-catch season. You're looking at a guy who's got a really safe floor in Robert Woods. Stafford is most definitely a quarterback upgrade. The styles don't exactly mesh, but they don't exactly clash either. So I could see him being the most successful receiver there.
That's fair. I like how you mentioned the ground game for Bobby Trees. You got to give him credit where credit's due. Billy, you're up, man. Bobby Trees. I know you love you some Bobby Trees. I know you like Matt Stafford.
Yeah. So Robert Woods really has blossomed into the wide receiver. We heard rumors that he was back when he was in Buffalo. 3 consecutive top 15 seasons in LA there with the Rams, and now he gets an all-time gunslinger, Matt Stafford, who I'm loving this year, and he's already has Sean McVay all fired up, going crazy. So I think it's probable that Robert Woods sees 150 targets. He's been around that 130 mark, a little over 130 on average over the last 3 years, and I think he has a career year in probably almost every aspect. Another guy whose lack of touchdowns really has people in the dark about his talent, me being included, having him ranked as low as I do, but with Matthew Stafford, I'm all in on these Rams, this Rams offense. So I'm probably going to be getting more and more Robert Woods than I typically would in my drafts this year.
More and more Bobby Trees for me. That's what I like to hear. Tom, the low man on it, 10 off of our consensus on Bobby Trees. I know you got some good numbers. I know you like the efficiency. I know you're going to tell me why you have him at 29.
I'll tell you what, it has nothing to do with efficiency, oddly enough, and that's usually my thing. I love efficiency. But I think this is a year that actually, as I look more and more into this offense, I love Matthew Stafford going there. I think this is going to be great for them. I think it's going to work way better. I think that it hurts Robert Trees, Robert Woods, as well as Cooper Kupp. I think both of their target shares go down. Last year, 129 and 124 for Woods and Kupp, respectively. Josh Reynolds had 81 coming in behind them. When I look at this depth chart, like we said, Stafford likes to go deep. Not every play, but he does like to throw the ball downfield. Those aren't going to be your guys necessarily, right? What you're going to see is Deshaun Jackson. Again, I've said this before. I know on the show, the 2 games out of the season he's on the field is going to be that guy. I could see Tutu Atwell if he makes the team getting a couple shares downfield. And then Van Jefferson, somebody that didn't run at the combine, so we don't know exactly what his 40 is, but talking about speed, right? At the Senior Bowl, he was clocked at 21.05 and 20.99 miles an hour at 2 different times within that game. Denzel Mims, who ran at 20.26 miles an hour. The fastest player in that draft at a 4.3840. Again, ran 20.26. Also, he was faster than Devin Duvernay and Antonio Gibson, who are both 4.39s. The man's fast. Van Jefferson is your deep threat when Deshaun Jackson's not out there for 15 of the 17 games. So Robert Woods, don't get me wrong, he'll have a good season. I think he's 29 is probably a little aggressive, but it's going to depend on what the target share and what the receptions and touchdowns are between him and Cooper Kupp. One of them will be a wide receiver 2. They'll be in that 13 to 24 range. The other one probably just outside of it. I don't think 29's crazy, but could end up just a little low.
That's fair. I'm getting a little flack from some of the guys in my Journey division for the Scott Fish Bowl. No, I did not adjust my rankings because I just drafted Robert Woods. So Robert Woods always been my number 9 guy. Always. So Robert Woods, right? He's like fine wine. Been in the league for 8 years. Like Derek, or I believe it's Derek, Mr. Consistency, right? Yes. Bobby Tree's gonna do you right. Bobby Light gonna do you right. You know what I'm saying? So, that's wild. So here we go. Bobby Tree's right, like fine wine. He gets better with age. So accolades real quick. Routes ran number 11, receptions number 11, average cushion 4.46 at number 4, average yards after the catch. This is nice, right? 4 yards. So he's a Yak King on them, boys. A 7% touchdown rate, number 13 in the league. That's great. 8.1 targets per game. That's that consistent volume that Derek in the chat was mentioning and Ryan touched on, right? He's just super consistent. The volume that we keep mentioning, the guaranteed targets, it's crazy, right? Like there's only so many things in fantasy football that you can kind of weigh in on and gauge. Guaranteed volume for the running back is huge, right? And that's why we mentioned stats win chips. That guaranteed volume with the running backs is going to do it. Same thing like with Bobby Trees, right? And his consistency. So let me regale you guys. Let me bring my guys in, right? Let me regale you. And then you know what? Bobby Trees, why don't you take a second? Take a second, Bobby Trees. So here we go. Little story about my guy, Sean McVay, right? You know I'm a coach guy. I like Cliff Kingsbury. I love Sean McVay. These guys are the reason why I draft some of these players, right? I draft Cam Akers, Robert Woods, Matt Stafford, Cooper Kupp, James Conner, Nuke, because of the minds that are behind it. What happens when you get 2 of the greatest football minds together? Something's going to happen, right? So Sean McVay, Cliff Kingsbury, right when Cliff Kingsbury's coming into the league, they go to dinner, right? And there's a couple other guys with Sean McVay and Cliff Kingsbury. Cliff had already talked to Kyler Murray, I believe. And so Sean McVay gets one of his buddies to text him, but he changes the name to Goodell, right? Commissioner. Text him, hey, tell Cliff he just lost the 1.01. He's not supposed to talk to players. He knows this. You know this. Y'all are both in trouble. He shows Cliff Kingsbury this, Sean McVay, right? And they both go stone white. Obviously, it's a joke. Cliff Kingsbury goes on for the rest of the dinner thinking that he's going to lose out on the 1.01, doesn't even really eat until after Sean McVay's done eating. Sean tells him, and then he still doesn't believe him, and he, freaks out. So, great mind of Sean McVay, right? Great story. you have to, I can't do it justice. I don't tell it as well as the other people do, but you get what I'm getting at, right? Sean McVay, super talented mind. He's going to use Robert Woods. He's going to use Matthew Stafford. So that's why Robert Woods is my number 9 wide receiver for the year. We'll keep it going. We're working on right an hour, so we're making pretty good time, guys. If this would work, it wants to stay on Bobby Trees. There we go. DJ Chark out of LSU. Oh, and I'm not even on it, but there it is, right? DJ Chark out of LSU, our 21th wide receiver on the year. I've got him at 32, so I'm a little low. Tom 17, Ryan 19, Billy 21. He finished at 49 last season, but he's got a brand new look this year with Urban Meyer, Travis Etienne, Trevor Lawrence. Just super, super fun offense, right? We know what he can do, 4.34 speed. Man, like I said, I'm going to not do so much on the people that I'm not so high on, but this is why I'm a little low on DJ Chark. And it might just be his element or whatnot. And this might just be one of the things that he's not like a stat guy that I need to look at, because his numbers just aren't consistent across the board. Like, I can't really pinpoint what he's doing, what he's not doing. What I can tell you is in 2020, efficiency-wise, Tom, right, you always mention this, he's like low across the board. His yards per target, 80, yards per route, 71, catchable target at a 70.2 is number 91 tied. His target quality, so what he's showing the quarterback is 5.4, which is a 61. His catch rate is 56.4. His average cushion is 67, so 3.55. From what it looks like to me is he wasn't really trying that hard, and I shouldn't say that because I don't know what he's doing, and obviously these are NFL players, so I don't want to say that, but you know what I'm trying to insinuate, right? I'm not saying that he's not trying, but I feel like he can do a lot better, and maybe this whole new offense ascends him, and maybe that's what I'm looking for. So, Billy, you start us off. Tom, you're going to go last because you're going to fire me up, and I'm going to be like, man, DJ Chark, wide receiver 1.
So I have a wide receiver 21. I do have a special place for DJ Chark because of that breakout season he had. I still remember Nick Foles, that first drive in Jacksonville, hitting Chark down the sideline for a beautiful touchdown. I picked him up everywhere I could right then. I guess I'm still struggling to believe that he is that guy. Urban Meyer's been hard on him as of late, and I have no idea what this offense is going to look like. So there's a point drafting where DJ Chark is the most talented wide receiver on the board. But he just isn't that exciting for me coming into 2021. So, like I said, just not as an exciting of a name as he has been in the past when Ryan and I made that trade.
Speaking of Ryan, you got him at 19.
Yeah, and here's the real deal, guys. Trevor Lawrence is going to throw the ball. They're going to throw the ball. This is by far their best receiver. If you discount his rookie year, where basically he didn't really play, he didn't really start, he had 32 targets, 14 catches, right? His second year was his breakout year, which was concurrent with the arrival of a certain Gardner Minshew. Gardner Minshew with him looked great. They both looked great. Last year, the quarterback dumpster fire that was Jacksonville was hard to watch. They had nothing. They had James Robinson, and that was about it. It was really bad. Trevor Lawrence is an upgrade at quarterback over Jake Luton or whatever other junk that they were putting out there over Minshew. Chark is the guy that we saw. He is that 1,000-yard receiver guy. He is the big, deep threat that can catch the deep touchdown. The problem is, yeah, you might be right, Pinto. It would be hard to put in maximum effort with the quarterback situation that was going on last year in Jacksonville. That seems to be remedied. Chark should be very engaged. He's going to be the wide receiver 1 here again, and he's really – the problem is he's basically impossible to stop when you throw those deep red zone balls. He's so big. He can get up so high. That's what he is in his strength, is he's that deep threat, touchdown threat. And that's what I want to see more of this year with Lawrence throwing some deep balls. Jacksonville could be an exciting offense, but yes, there's a lot of uncertainty.
The 199 on the weight looks a little, I feel like he plays a little bit bigger than that, right?
Yeah, he's so long. He's incredibly long. That's the thing. Like, his arm length is long. He's so jumpy. He's a weapon in the red zone.
The body, what you got? Is that an Always Sunny reference?
The body is actually, hang on. Quit eating hoagies over the body. It was an East of Mayor or Mayor of Easttown reference.
Fair enough.
Good old HBO. DJ Chark. Last year, they would not play the best quarterback on their roster. They wanted to lose out to get the first overall pick. Really stupid thing to do, but hey, you did it. This year, if they play the best quarterback on their roster, that's the best thing you could do for DJ Chark. I'm going to ask you guys a quick question. Who's the best quarterback on their roster?
Are you
You're right.
insinuating-
Gardner Minshew.
Yeah, that's what I thought you were insinuating. I'm not certain about that because I do think Trevor's pretty solid, but
Gardner Minshew's the best quarterback in his draft class, and Pinto's QB1 is in that same draft class, and he's not the best quarterback from it. Statistically, Gardner Minshew better than Kyler Murray. Ouch.
I hope he goes somewhere.
I hope he does.
So
too.
I was just seeing how long I could just been quiet for. I don't know how much you're gonna go with that. Look, I'm not gonna say anything
now that we're done.
He's our guy.
Yeah. Now that we're done loving Gardner Minshew, don't get me wrong. We'll continue loving him forever and always. That's never going to end. But this is about DJ Chark. DJ Chark is the best deep threat on that team. He catches an over-the-shoulder ball beautifully. That was what Minshew did so well with him when he was out there. When he wasn't on the field, the neck and all these other garbage quarterbacks didn't put the ball up there like Minshew did and couldn't put it downfield. And I'm not even talking 50 yards downfield, but 20, 30 yards downfield. That's where Chark excels. So, talking about him being a red zone threat, I don't think that's wrong. I think where he excels is at about the 20 to 30 yard line. They're able to put it right up over his shoulder into the end zone and drop it right into the basket. That's his money spot. So if you can do that with Trevor Lawrence, because unfortunately he'll start over Minshew, that's where you'll succeed. I will say I think that the target share could get split up a bit here, which might hurt him a little bit. Looking at that depth chart, obviously DJ Chark is their wide receiver one. Marvin Jones, he's not young, but he's going to get some shares. He's a very good receiver. And I think that we're going to see at least a slight emergence of Laviska Shenault. A lot of good things coming out of training camp for him. So positive for him. Chris, I know your guy Colin Johnson down there, was he 6'6", more of a tight end, but he's skinny as all hell. And then, Travis Etienne lining up in the slot. It seems like they're going to move guys around a lot, which I love for the offense. It could bring DJ Chark down a little bit. I have him at 17. I think he could do it, but I could see it coming down a little bit just due to that. I think he's a borderline wide receiver 2 to wide receiver 3.
That's fair assessment. Man, Colin Johnson's like the guy I can't get rid of. Like, I don't want to draft him, but I just feel like he's going to do something. So he's on a lot of my rosters.
One day he's going to have a game for like 210 yards and 3 touchdowns. And you're going to be on my bench. Not on your team and starting. Yeah.
And trade his ass.
So this is a guy I was extremely excited about talking about because it's a guy that I don't have a lot of. Oh, I did it again.
Battle time.
In a battle. So here we go. The reigning Super Bowl championship. Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Their wide receivers and Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. The Mike Evans are consensus number 11. Chris Godwin are consensus number 14. You guys can see where we kind of split the bill on them. We can see this in Scott Fishbowl right now going on. Chris Godwin went ahead of Mike Evans and mine. So where are you guys at pretty much on this? I can see Billy's a little lower on Mike Evans than he is. Wait, where am I looking at? Yeah, okay. I'm looking at all these right. Okay. So, Tom, you're at the top. I see you're at 15 on Evans, 10 on Godwin. You're obviously got Godwin over Evans. Why?
We are.
Lord, here we go.
Big 10, it means more. No, I like Chris Godwin a lot. I think he has a lot of talent. The target share has been the biggest factor for him over the last few years. You look at last year, Mike Evans, 109 targets, Chris Godwin, 84. Mr. I don't know how to keep my feet from burning from ice, got 62. It's an interesting offense. I had trouble going into last year kind of projecting what this team would do, and I'm having the same issues this year, even though they returned every single starter. I don't know if they'll keep the same kind of split or not. Mike Evans obviously is a stud. Chris Godwin a stud. Mr. Cold Feet is sure. Scotty Miller actually, to me, was pretty impressive last year. I thought he did very well and is a great wide receiver for him. Gronk, I said it last year, and I'm going to say it again. I don't think he'll have a great season at tight end. We're going to get into them. OJ Howard's still there. And then in the backfield, Rojo, Leonard Fournette, Keyshawn Vaughn, has potential, but he's a running back 3. There's so many mouths to feed. It's almost like what we talked about with the Chiefs. There's so many people you want to put the ball in their hands, and you don't have that many snaps to do it. So, and Giovanni Bernard, we almost forgot. Not that he's great, but it's a name, it's somebody that's probably going to make the roster. If I had to guess, there's a lot of people to try and give the ball, and it's going to depend on who the split goes to. I think both of these guys end up as high-end wide receiver, definitely wide receiver 2 for both of them. Could push into wide receiver 1 territory for one of them.
Yeah, there's a lot of mouths to feed in Tampa Bay. It would take probably I don't know. Billy, Billy, before you go, I know what. It would take the universe's most prolific quarterback to ever see turf that we've ever seen, anyone's ever seen, to feed these guys. And obviously I'm talking about Tom Brady. Okay, we're going to let Billy talk now. Billy!
Peyton Manning.
Yes.
This Evans-Godwin debate I've really been struggling with in some of these drafts I'm doing. I was looking at both of these guys as potential targets in my Scott Fishbowl draft, and started to really dig in a little bit more, and I have Mike Evans ranked 3 spots higher than Godwin. However, I look a bit deeper, and Godwin outpaced Evans in targets, receptions, and yards, but he'd missed those 4 games. Evans did score 13 touchdowns to Godwin 7, so he's outpaced him pretty well there getting in the end zone. But I expect year 2, Godwin becomes Brady's guy that he uses to just toy with defenses with his versatility. We see Godwin back in that mix as a wide receiver 1 this season, in my opinion. I think I'm going to probably have him slightly higher than Mike Evans, just personal gut feeling and kind of what I like as they're able to do a lot more with him. You know what you got in Mike Evans. Godwin's a guy that can be a mismatch all over the field. So I tend to prefer that with Brady. A second year with Brady, I think this Tampa Bay offense is going to be pretty efficient, pretty fun to watch. And I think there's going to be a lot of guys fantasy relevant.
That's fair. We're not even getting. We talk about Brady Manning all day. How come I can't move you, Ryan? Because you're a Manning fan.
Like, here's the deal. Obviously, both of these guys are excellent. Our rankings reflect that 11 and 14 consensus. But the last 2 years, and really, we should probably focus a little more on the last year. Although with Jameis, with the gunslinger, that's also something I want to take into consideration. Godwin has really outpaced Evans in the catch percentage stuff, also in yards per target. And when I look at those things and I look at Brady, who has really made his best receiver many times, Edelman or Welker or an Amendola type of a guy, the guys who have the sure hands, who have the higher catch percentages, Brady loves those types of guys underneath. Godwin is going to tear some people up in the gut of the defense, right underneath everything. Linebackers are going to be trying to cover Godwin. It's not going to happen. Evans is going to be the guy that likely outscores him touchdown-wise, because that's what Evans does. That really is his strength. But Godwin is the volume guy because of his efficiency levels. He only played in 12 games last year. His efficiency numbers were incredibly impressive, 77.4% catch percentage. You can't really ignore that. I know Brady is incredibly accurate, but Godwin really connected with, in a way. I mean, I know him and Evans have the touchdown thing. That's more like the Gronk for Brady's old Gronk, but Brady's Welker, Brady's Edelman, that's Godwin. And Godwin is going to be getting the volume that you want to see from the guy in this offense.
What about Scotty Miller?
Tom, you're over here in the private chat too much. I forgot that you already talked. You're over here busting my balls over here in the private chat so much. Look,
well, you brought up GOAT, and we all know
the GOAT is Tom Brady. We all know this.
Peyton Manning.
It's not. Look. This is a wide receiver show. This is not the GOAT show. This is not the. If you want to have a Tom Brady
real quick,
show,
hang on.
All
right, we're not going to get into the Tom Brady show then. Ryan, you mentioned that Tom Brady's favorite receiver is the Edelman, the Welkers. So Chris Godwin's the guy. You forgot about Scotty Miller.
Yeah, but the problem is there's a humongous talent discrepancy between Godwin and Scotty Miller. It's substantial.
Ryan, look at them.
Yeah, okay, I see what
It's
you're
Scotty
saying.
Miller.
No,
It's Brady's guy. It's Brady's guy.
Y'all are wild.
There
Look,
is
gonna be Godwin
here's
for
the deal.
sure.
Uncanny
Here's the deal. This is
resemblance.
why I've got Mike Evans higher than Chris Godwin. We saw what Mike Evans could do last season with the limited role that he had, right? No, I mean, not limited, but like his floor, right? He had 1 catch for 1 yard and a touchdown. Like, that's the absolute. My guys are wild, but you know what? We bring our stats like in packs, like Sammy and Dean Martin. So it don't matter, guys. We're good. So Mike Evans, though, is like we saw his floor: 1 catch, 1 yard, 1 touchdown. That's all you needed from him, right? He's gonna ascend this year. Brady's gonna get better in my mind. So go, Mike Evans! Whoa, in the battle. Okay, now let's get to something that we were really scheduled for. And then Tyler Lockett, right? So Tyler Lockett, you guys can see number 27 for us. I got him at 28, Tom at 24, Ryan at 13, Billy at 42. I'm extremely excited to see what Billy has because Tyler Lockett and me just don't jive. He's just one of those guys that I never find on my roster. Out of K-State, maybe that's why. Big 12 guy. 4.4 speed, but we know what he can do. His separation is good. He's wide receiver 8 last year. He's got danger Russ. Let's see. Ryan, you're the highest on him. Oh, wait. We're going to go with Tom. What you got, Tom?
I was just going to say, this is a wide receiver 1 unless the target share kills him. Like Tamari and Terry may or may not have killed somebody, yet to be seen. But if Tamari and Terry doesn't get in trouble for that, Dwayne Eskridge, Tamari and Terry, DK Metcalf, they're going to eat into a little bit of that target share. That's the only thing keeping this from being a wide receiver 1.
That's a fair assessment. So does that factor into your number 24, obviously, right?
It does. I think 24 might be a little low. It's
Ooh,
but that
let me
wide
ask you
receiver
this.
2 range.
If T squared happens to not play this season, does that move Tyler Lockett up for you?
It bumps him up probably around 18 to 20. Again, it's not a huge jump, but it puts him more solid into that wide receiver 2 spot.
Sure.
I think that having those 2 rookies along with the monster that is DK Metcalf, Russell has some options. That offensive line still sucks. He's still going to be running around, but if you can line up 4 wide with all these talented guys, why wouldn't you?
That's fair. So I guess Tom went back. Ryan, you're gonna go last. So Tyler Lockett, like I mentioned, for me, he's just a guy like I never really seem to get. I don't know. Like I guess it's in my mind the way I tier out my guys. Like he just falls where I can't really get him. But I look in there, he's good, right? Like I mentioned the route participation that Nuke Hopkins does 110% every time. Tyler Lockett falls right there too. He's in that number 1% with that 100% participation. Number 5 at receptions at 100, and number 7 at 10 total touchdowns. The team too. I mean, as a run-heavy team as we think that Seattle is, they're actually top half in the league for pass plays. That's got a lot to do with DK Metcalf, but I mean, let Russ cook, right? So, who did I say was next? Was it Ryan or Billy? Let's go with Ryan.
Okay. Here's the deal, guys. Russell Wilson is this good.
Here's the deal.
Russell Wilson is this good, and that's the problem. I have him for 139 targets, 100 catches, 1195, and 9 touchdowns. That's a heck of a season. Now, the counter argument that I'm sure that is going to be made is that he has humongous nuclear games. So I'm obviously, and then sometimes he has duds. So I'm obviously more into him in best ball than I am in other formats. But the problem is this guy will win you games alone. He has such huge game potential. And honestly, the offensive line for Seattle was really not good. If Wilson can have a little bit more time, Lockett is more of a quickness guy than he is a speed guy, even though he's quite fast as well. But if you try to cover him for too long, he'll shake you. 10, 8, and 10. That's his touchdown totals for the last 3 years. You can't argue with those results. 2 of the last 3 years, he's had over 1,000 yards. The 1 year he didn't. He had 965 while averaging 16.9 yards per catch. That was his big play year. Ever since then, he's upped his targets. He's upped his catching. He's upped his catch rate from last year to the year before. This is a guy that had an 81% catch rate in 2018. we're looking at him like he's been in the league for so long. He'll be 29. That is not too old, especially with the way he plays and the quarterback he has, and DK Metcalf on the other side of the ball taking that DB1 the majority of the time. They just complement each other so well. They have an elite level quarterback and a run game that can be very effective. If the line solidifies up, you're looking at Lockett as a top 10 receiver once again, like he was last year.
Fair points, Billy. Now I'm swayed right now. Tom's already said he's going to be swayed depending on a verdict or two. What do you think, Billy? What do you got?
Let me tell you the true story of Tyler Lockett. Yeah, wide receiver 8 last year. I have him at 42, and that might be too high because I will not draft Tyler Lockett. Like Ryan said, maybe a best ball guy, but over 35% of his total production in PPR format last year was in 3 games. He played all 16 games. He was wide receiver 8. That's very good. But you're drafting a wide receiver 2 who had 7 single-digit PPR games and only saw the end zone in 2 games. That doesn't include the 3 monsters that I talked about a second ago. So it's hard to put together a winning lineup week to week when your wide receiver 2 isn't getting 10 points in PPR format in 50% of the weeks. Now, take into consideration that one of his monsters was a Week 17 33-point performance. If you are riding Tyler Lockett through your playoffs with 2 single-digit performances, you're not making it to the title game for that 33-point week to help win you that thing. So that's why I'm staying away from Tyler Lockett. He will not be on any of my teams.
Oh, Tom with the rebuttal.
And if you look at the year before, also almost 20% of his points came in his top 3 games the year before as well. A whole lot of duds with this guy. 50-50 shot that he's even capable of getting you 10 points in PPR formats.
That's not a lot.
No, it's not good.
I will say, right, as far as his inconsistency, you're absolutely right, Billy. And that's where I think having him as a wide receiver too, that's not unrealistic. I think personally 42, I get what you mean, right? When you're in the playoffs, this is not the guy I want to rely on, right? Having him at 24 doesn't mean I'm going to pick him necessarily right there. I might take my number 25 or 26 over him if they're more consistent. It becomes the question of, would you rather a running back 10 that's big games for 8 games and crap games for the other 8, or, now there's 17 games, but you get the point, or a guy that's consistent and he's like a running back 12 or 14, but every game is pretty consistent throughout the season. And it's going to depend on what your type of play is, right? If you're
roster construction,
if you're Chris and you have 8 freaking running backs, you don't care if they have 4 games of the season as their entire season, right? He doesn't care if Tyler Lockett's his only receiver that can't put up more than 10 points for more than 4 games out of the year.
Agreed.
But you just have to find those games that he's going to snap.
But I could do that with Hollywood Brown and also hit a lot more as well and get him 6 rounds later.
Cough, cough. Nice transition.
What? Oh, look.
Whoa.
Look. Hollywood. 5'9", 166 out of Oklahoma, drafted in the first round in 2019. 4.32 speed at the real 4.2 or 4.32, not with a hand clock from a coach. Our wide receiver 40. I've got him at 39, Tom at 54, Ryan at 42, Billy at 35. You can see where we fall. He finished at 36 last year. Not as many Jackson 5s as we thought last season. We all know what Tom feels. So, Tom, why don't you go ahead and tell us about Lamar and Hollywood?
Lamar sucks. If Trace McSorley starts, he's a wide receiver 1.
Man, I was jamming to that Trace McSorley earlier today. But 54, I get what you have. I get it, but like that's a little low for me, I think.
So realistically, right? Was Lamar Jackson, has he improved year by year with his passing? Off the top of your head?
Probably not.
Statistically, no. Last year was a dip.
I mentioned that I was making Jackson 5, so definitely got to be.
I don't think it's that impressive. Yeah. So when you look at Lamar Jackson, that's the biggest question here. It's not about Marquise Brown or his talent, right? I have nothing to say bad about him as a player. It's about the
you put him on the Chiefs and he's wonderful.
Absolutely. You put him on any team that has a quarterback that can actually that throws the ball as their main weapon, and he's a great receiver. But you put him on a team where it's a running back there that happens to have an okay arm, it doesn't work out well for your receivers. I mean, you're looking at a wide receiver 36, and that's your number one receiver on the team. You couldn't even get into the top 32. That means that there were 4 teams that had 2 receivers above you at least.
Dang, Tom being all logical and shit.
It's not good. I mean, you look at Lamar Jackson's stats. His sophomore season, don't get me wrong, 66% completion percentage, 401 attempts, 36 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. That's phenomenal, right? The yardage is kind of crap, but the efficiency is there. Going to last year's completion percentage down to about 64%, 2,700 yards, only 26 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. You're talking about a yards per attempt of 7.3 yards, and that's per attempt. His attempts went down. His yards per completion are down to 11.4. It doesn't bode well for an offense that you added receivers last year and your quarterback got worse. That's not promising for me. I cannot get with a receiver down there, especially when you look at the depth chart. You added in, again, we've talked about it. He's not going to be a massive, stealer of touches, but it's Marquise Brown, Sammy Watkins. You have Miles Boykin still there. You added Rashad Bateman. You have James Prochet, Devin Duvernay. There's a lot of receivers that maybe aren't great, but they haven't kept the ball away from a single one of them. And then obviously J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards, Justice Hill out of the backfield. This isn't as high powered as the Bucs and the Chiefs, but it is an offense that has a lot of guys they like to get involved, even as questionable as they may be. So I can't get past that. To me, he's a wide receiver 3 at best.
Yeah, I can see that. Billy, you're the highest on him. Maybe listening to Tom, listening to you, maybe that sways Ryan or me one way or another.
Yeah, Hollywood Brown, my wide receiver 35, a guy like another one of those speed guys like I talked about earlier. This guy really came out last year in his sophomore season and really didn't have a very good start out of the gate. 1 100-yard game and only 2 touchdowns through 11 weeks. And he was wide receiver 54 over that stretch. However, it's no secret that the Ravens were really, really weak at wide receiver. I mean, they had Dez Bryant suiting up, playing in important situations. So that tells you what that kind of situation was like for them. But over that stretch, he over the last 6 games, I guess, he scored 6 touchdowns, and he was wide receiver 13 over that stretch down the backside of the season. So no real receiving help. The additions of Rashad Bateman, Tylan Wallace, I see as kind of help rather than competition. I like Rashad Bateman's skill set as a nice complement, being a kind of a possession guy. So Sammy Watkins will command some coverage. So I like the situation with Hollywood not being keyed on by defenses and having some other guys that can take some heat off him in situations, and especially Bateman, a possession type guy. So I have him for just over 1,000 yards and 9 touchdowns, very similar to last season's Tyler Lockett numbers. And but I do see, like I said, with Tyler Lockett, a lot of boomer bust. So these guys are hard to lean on as a wide receiver 1 or 2, and that's why he's kind of in that wide receiver 3 range, like Tom mentioned.
Billy, quick question for you. Does he remind you of old school Deshaun Jackson?
Exactly. I was going to say the routes that he runs, deep crossing stuff, and just deep shots off play action. He's exactly that kind of skill set guy, and that's what you got with Deshaun Jackson. Just like a Tyler Lockett, they're going to have 1,000 yards. They're going to score some touchdowns because when they do, they're going to score 3 because they can get behind this defense tonight. So finding those matchups is really important with a guy like Marquise Brown. And if you play your cards right with a guy like him, you can plug him in as a wide receiver 1 in certain specific matchups. However, I'm wanting him as my wide receiver 3 on my lineup. However, at times when I get really deep in running back, if I get him as a wide receiver 2, I like that scenario because you're not able to get Lockett if you go that heavy at running back. He goes too high. But same scenario, you can get a lot of the same production. Maybe not quite the ceiling because Tyler Lockett he has like a TYREEK Hill, boomer bust type thing, but very much similar to Deshaun Jackson back in his prime, where the right Monday night game, you know, you got the wide receiver 1 for the week, maybe 3-4 weeks a year.
So I think I'm going to be moving him down just because whoever mentioned the Lizard King, Sammy Watkins going to be the number 1 wide receiver on that team at least 2 weeks. So that eats into Hollywood Brown just a little bit. I got him at 39. I'm spot on though. Like if he's my wide receiver 2 in the way that we draft, love it. Absolutely love it. Because he has the wide receiver 1 potential for sure. He's in got number 7 in deep targets, 1.56 per game. If they increase that, he had 25 last season. So if they increase that just a little bit, he's in the 99 percentile for speed, as Billy mentioned. So like he gets behind one defender, he's going to get behind that defender all game. He's going to get in his head. So Hollywood Brown, man, he's one of those guys. He's on that cusp. So Ryan, what do you think?
Yeah, for me, the problem is Lamar. It's always been Lamar, and it likely always will be Lamar. I like Hollywood. He's got that big play potential. I know we've talked specifically about him, winding up with him a lot because of the high upside picks when we go so heavy RB. Like you said, winds up as your wide receiver 2. Not complaining about that. Again, I have him at 42. He's not that many points away from being at like 33. So that's right at my wide receiver 2 range where I find acceptable. He's going to be due for those big games, but I just don't trust Lamar Jackson or any of his receiving options outside Andrews for his touchdown floor. But Marquise is a guy that I do have exposure to just because of the big play. He just needs one play.
Absolutely one play, and it's to the house. We got a couple more to talk about. We'll kind of go through these a little bit quicker. There's not too many more. These two are going to be a little bit more of a deep dive, I would assume, right? I would think, even though Gabriel Davis, a.k.a. to our guys, G-Baby, is number 41 on our consensus for 2021. I'm extremely low as I'm doing my research on G-Baby. 61 for Chris Pinto, 37 for Ryan and Tom, and at a league high, Billy at 32, rounding out his wide receiver 3s, I would think. Last season, 56 on the wide receiver. Things have changed in Buffalo, obviously. Running back position, not too much. Out of UCF, out of 2020, a 4.22 speed, that's extremely fast, G-Baby. 6'2", 216. He's got the measurables that we really like in a wide receiver 1 as well. Stephon Diggs over there. This could be really good for Gabriel Davis, Stephon Diggs combo, right? So I'm the lowest. Guys, I know y'all are going to convince me. So this is what I got, and then just tell me why I'm wrong. I'll keep myself in a small box so I don't talk too terribly much. But so this is a guy for me that just like I mentioned earlier, like I'm going to watch the film on him. I'm going to do a little bit more on him because the numbers just don't make sense to me on this. Like, does he not play through the whistle? Was there not a lot of exposure to him? He's got Josh Allen. Like, he's going to throw him the ball. So, like, you would think. So this is what I'm looking at, right? His target rate, 13.7, number 188. His receptions, 35, number 77. His yards after the catch, 122, number 94. Yards per route, 1.32, 84. So, like, what 1 point? Like, was he just run? He's a huge guy. Why is he running like a curl route? It doesn't make no sense to me. His catch rate is 56.5. That's number 90. This is where I'm thinking like it must be something else. His contested catch rate, guys, 26.3. That's low. 26% contested catch rate. So you put somebody on this guy, he ain't catching the ball. That's number 97 in the league. So what's the deal with G-Baby? Why are y'all so high on him?
I can start. I see in the way that he plays, I see a lot of AJB. I honestly do. There's some physicality there, some toughness and power to go and combine with some speed. The natural ability is there. He was a 21-year-old learning an offense that Stephon Diggs really got to dominate. I see Stephon Diggs still dominating that offense, but I see Cole Beasley slowly but surely fading due to age. And Davis, another year in, that was a short offseason last year for a rookie to come in and learn a relatively complex system. He did reasonably well efficiency-wise, a 17.1 yard per catch average. That's good no matter what way you slice it. 7 touchdowns on 35 catches. That needs to be reminded about. That's 1 every 5. That is
now, do you think he continues that, though? That's an astounding rate.
Not at that rate, but he's going to have a high touchdown rate for the majority of his career because I think there was consistency issues for him year 1 as a rookie in this offense. Year 2, he'll be better. It's the physical talent that intrigues me so much. I am shocked Billy, it shocked me so much that I wasn't the highest on him. And then to see Tom right there next to me, I have been getting this guy. It would not shock me if he was my second highest wide receiver exposure behind A.J. Brown, just because I'm taking him before anybody else gets the chance to pull the trigger. He winds up as my first guy off the bench receiver that I highly suspect I may even be undervaluing, and he may move up because, again, I love the Josh Allen situation. Diggs is going to demand so much attention. You may not be looking at the volume like I referenced earlier with Gabriel Davis, but the efficiency numbers for the catch percentage should only improve. And then obviously he's not going to score every 5 catches, but this is a guy that finds the end zone. So he's going to have a relatively safe touchdown floor. He's a big play guy.
Yeah, I will say,
Pinto muted.
So by his short route running that I looked at in the numbers, right, without watching a lot of him, does he remind you of, like, what was that guy? Green Beckham? Or I forgot what his name was. Just
Dorial
like that
Green
big,
Beckham.
the big body receiver in the red zone, right?
I'll bring him up.
Not quite as big as Dorial, though.
Here's
But
the other
same-
thing.
same-
He's
same
elusive.
thing, same concept.
Well,
So
I would say
he's
he's
much
a poor
faster,
man's
I think.
AJB. Yeah, he's like a poor man's AJB. He runs very physical with the ball. He's just an exceptional athlete once he gets in space.
Yeah, 4.5, 4.40, I don't think is conducive to his play speed.
Yeah,
I
I think
actually
he
agree.
plays much faster than that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, me too. He looks much faster than that on the field.
Hey, you guys must have read my notes. Wide receiver 32, I'm the highest on him. And exactly what Ryan said. The first thing I wrote down, it's a very similar situation to McCole Hardman before last year, where McCole had six touchdowns on 26 catches, I believe. Like Ryan said, 7 touchdowns on 35 catches. And now John Brown's gone. He's the deep threat in this offense. They added Emmanuel Sanders, but he's not anything like that guy. He's not getting behind anybody. He's more a compliment to Cole Beasley, maybe a little bit better in the red zone than Cole Beasley. And I expect that's just kind of help Josh Allen with some short, get out of the pocket. And, Emmanuel Sanders, high IQ football player, knows what to do. I think Gabriel Davis is the guy that gets left alone, forgotten about, and gets down the seam behind everybody for Josh Allen to make some plays. And that 4.54, like you said, Tom, that is nowhere near the way. If you watch this guy is fast. And I love what you said, Ryan, about the physicality. Like, this guy runs with some authority. Like, he makes catches with guys close to him and on him and hanging on him. He's one of those guys you want to see get more and more involved. Relatively low catch percentage as well. So a guy that has a lot of improvement. Saw a lot of good things last year. I think he could be a wide receiver 3 this season, but expect some peak and valleys because of the role that he's going to be playing. There's going to be days where the Buffalo can get deep and days where they can't. That's when you're going to find Gabriel Davis to be up there in that probably wide receiver 2 range more often than not.
Yeah, I want to reiterate, this is not something that I'll usually use, but this guy supremely passes the eyeball test. When you watch him in open space, it is enjoyable to watch him in open space. He's dangerous. He's shifty. He's powerful. He can run over you or run around you, and it's fun to watch a guy with this kind of talent. If he can put it together, this is going to be a super duper steal for you later in the draft. Obviously, you got to hope he puts it together. Year 2 receiver. I think the potential's there.
And he was a monster in college, too. I mean, let's not forget, he was a physical specimen on a really damn good UCF football team down there that has won quite a few games over the last few years. I mean, just because, he's not a big, popular, big sexy name doesn't mean that this guy isn't an emerging star at the wide receiver position.
Yeah, I think I might be sandbagging a bit here at 37. I might be trying to keep his ranking lower so that people don't draft him as high because I want him.
I want him too. I want him a lot.
It's one of those things where, like, I look at the stats, right? Looking at the personnel groupings, 71% of Buffalo's plays run out of a 3 wide receiver set last year. I mean, that's one of the top 5 in the league, I'm fairly certain. And then looking up at where he lines up, Stephon Diggs, 433 plays outside, Gabriel Davis, 418, Emmanuel Sanders, 238 last year. And then in the slot, he lined up another 323 times in the slot, Gabriel Davis. So he's out there a lot. He can move inside, outside, regardless of where they need him. He can play there. And I think Ryan nailed it. I think we're going to see Cole Beasley start to just he's going to regress, but not heavily. But I think that you're going to see Exactly. You're going to see them want to utilize Gabriel Davis more and Cole Beasley less. And there's another name we haven't brought up, and that's Isaiah McKenzie, somebody that I think is an interesting guy back there. If he gets on the field, could be a solid wide receiver 4 for them. And that could kind of help move Cole Beasley out a little bit more. So it'd be Davis, McKenzie, and Diggs. Regardless, this offense is going to be stacked. It's Josh Allen up there. That man is a monster.
They still need a running back. I don't know.
Yeah.
This is a guy that I don't know. I think I'm going to fade this guy, guys. We'll just have to talk about him at the end of the season for me.
Feel ya.
Yeah, and this is a guy that, and this is why I think that this guy's better. I can't click back over here for some reason. So I like Amon-Ra a little bit better. Obviously, you can see by my rankings. He's our wide receiver number 74 on the season. I've got him at 49, so inside my top 50. Tom's got him at 61, Ryan at 75, Billy at 96. The 5'11", 197 USC Trojan, drafted out of 2021, brand new rookie to the Lions, new look, Jared Goff, Penei Sewell, DeAndre Swift, biting kneecaps. What are they going to do with Amon-Ra St. Brown? So this is our last guy before, I believe, our last battle. So we'll kind of make this go quick. We're almost we hit that 100-minute mark, and we like to keep it under 2. So let's start with Billy at the bottom at 96, Amon-Ra.
Yeah, I'll keep it quick. To me, Amon-Ra is the third, maybe fourth best receiving option on the lines. You got Hawkinson. Cephas is a guy I like coming out of Wisconsin. DeAndre Swift's going to catch some balls, and they brought in Jamal Williams, who's a pass-catching extraordinaire at the running back position. He could, have a bigger role in my mind. I had Amon-Ra at wide receiver 9 coming out. He's a solid wide receiver. I'm really unsure about this Lions quarterback, head coach, Goff turnover situation. This isn't a real good team, and they're really, really thin at the wide receiver position, and I just feel like it's going to be hard for him to really come in and emerge when there's nobody to really take a lot of pressure off of him. So I'm not really in on any of the Lions this season, including Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Ryan, 75 on him, boys. What you got on Amon-Ra?
The problem is he plays for the Lions, so it really isn't happy camping for him. I don't really think that Goff is as prolific as he was. He will not be as prolific as he was with McVay. I'm not sure where this guy starts the season out as far as the depth chart goes. They also have Tyrell Williams. I can't recall if you were saying that. I was reading something that I just don't know what this offense outside of Hawkinson is going to look like in the pass catching department. This guy is not an impressive specimen of an athlete. I think he's a relatively shifty runner. He's good at tracking the ball. He's kind of like a slower slot guy, which, I mean, you can see those guys be relatively successful, but I was hoping he would be faster than he was. And when he showed that, he plays quick, but he's not fast. So for me, I just don't see in redraft, I can't see it. Now in Dynasty, I'm more intrigued simply because I don't think Detroit can be bad forever.
That's fair. Detroit cannot be bad forever. Tom, my man, 61 on Amon-Ra.
I think Detroit would disagree that they can be bad forever, and they've shown that so far. But Amon-Ra St. Brown, I mean, my biggest question is we saw his brother playing for the Packers. We thought he was going to be very good, and he just didn't have that drive. I hope that Amon-Ra has that drive because he has ability. Don't get me wrong. He's not a physical specimen like Ryan was saying. He's got long arms. He's got big reach. So in the slot, that could work out well for him, being able to get out. You don't necessarily need a lot of separation. You can reach out and get the ball ahead of the defensive back. That depth chart is ugly, though. Brashad Perryman, Tyrell Williams, Khalif Raymond, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Quintez Cephas, and somebody we haven't mentioned yet, Sage Surratt, the guy out of Wake Forest, who, Ryan, I know you were big on him.
Yes.
Every Jamie Newman highlight down in Wake Forest was actually a Sage Surratt highlight.
Yeah, it was unbelievable.
I'm kind of hoping by the end of this season that really the Lions receiving core is Amon-Ra St. Brown on one side, Sage Surratt on the other, and whoever you want otherwise. I don't think anybody in Detroit's going to have a great season, even beyond Goff not being the best quarterback. You have a tight end coach as your head coach, so I think it's going to be Hawkinson season all day long. I'm all in on him, though.
The Hawkins shit, baby. Tyler, TJ. Oh, my bad. Tyler Higbee, TJ Hawkinson. Thinking about too much stuff right now. So here we go. This is the last thing we got right on Amon-Ra St. Brown. I can actually say his name versus his brother's name, so that makes him
Equanimous.
better. Yeah, it's not as cool as Amon-Ra. You know, it's just,
I don't know. Equanimous is pretty awesome.
I mean, say it 4 times really quickly. Go.
Equanimous, 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 Equanimous.
Yeah.
Ooh, skills.
That's impressive as hell.
Easy.
Jeez.
Done. Where's the button? Easy.
Show's over.
Man, what I think about Amon-Ra is really, it's just like Schrodinger's cat, like, or Schrodinger's box, whatever the cat in the box, Schrodinger's box, right? Got the cat in the box. It's either dead or alive. You don't know till you open it. He's like the lesser of the evils, right? Like we mentioned this dumpster fire of receiving core that they got. Quintez Cephas is my favorite guy besides this fella, but I think that his intangibles are good, right? Like you mentioned, he's not a fast player. He gets by. It's one of those things like he just gets it done, right? I just feel like he just gets it done. He gets 6 targets per game or 6 receptions per game, not just targets, receptions. And they're not deep down the field. So we know Goff isn't a deep ball thrower, right? Maybe this is the guy for him. So that's why I've got him at 49. I got him projected pretty high. I think that he's the lesser of the evils, right? I'm going to try. At least I can say his name. It's going to be cool. Like, I'm sure there's going to be some cool names out there for Amon-Ra St. Brown teams. So that's really all I got on Amon-Ra, guys. Let's go to our last battle. Oh, and it's a big one. Heavyweight bout. T. Higgins, Jamar Chase. Tigers prowling, as we've seen on Twitter. We got 18 for T. Higgins, 25 for Jamar Chase. I flip-flopped. Did anyone else flip-flop? Everyone else pretty stayed consensus with it. Okay, I'm the only different one. That's fine. Okay, so let's start with Billy. You're right below me. Billy, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase.
I love both of these guys. T. Higgins, my wide receiver 17, and Jamar Chase, the rookie at wide receiver 24. I love them both. I'm super high on Joe Burrow. The volume that he had last year was incredible. 400 attempts in 10 games. And Higgins had 6 straight games of 60-plus yards before Burrow got injured. He had 900 yards as a rookie, with his quarterback missing 6 games, and the quarterback play dropped off, not only volume-wise, but obviously quality-wise as well. But he had 60 yards in only one of those games after Burrow went down. I think Chase will be awesome as well, but I'm just a T. Higgins guy with Burrow under center. One of my favorite hookups for the upcoming season. I'm getting T. Higgins everywhere. I actually probably like him a little bit higher than 17 for my own personal rosters. Just one of those guys I'm a fan of. Jamar Chase is going to be great there with Burrow, but as a rookie, I'll take the guy that was on the field last year, and I've seen what he is and what he can do.
That's fair. That's fair. I like T. Higgins. We'll talk about that in a second. Ryan, what you got?
All right, I got to be honest. I have both these guys behind Boyd. But
can we just mute Ryan? Can I mute this guy?
Look, guys, I can't undersell, but for me, it's just a slight edge for Higgins because he has the bigger play potential. He's going to likely have the higher yards per target, and I likely see him getting 1 extra touchdown out of it. I actually have Chase for 131 and 84 catches for 1,008 yards and 7 touchdowns. And I have Higgins for 127, 83, but 1056 and 8 touchdowns. And that just barely nudges him above. And for reference, I have Tyler Boyd for 133, 90 catches and 1028 and 7. And that's the extra catches is what pushes him over because all of those guys are within 10 points of each other in scoring format. I mean,
Ryan,
they're
the
right
Bengals
there.
don't even realize Tyler Boyd's on their team anymore.
Man, he's been really good 2 years in a row, 3 years in a row.
I mean, when they did that photo shoot, there were only 2 Tigers out there prowling.
Thank goodness the photographer doesn't make lineup decisions.
Thank goodness they also had Joe Burrow's scar on his knee in those photos.
Yeah, seriously.
Since they
This is what
don't
we're
have
gonna
an
protect.
offensive line.
They're going to protect Burrow with Jamar Chase. Good idea.
Yeah, doing well.
Idiots.
I do have to say, with Ryan bringing up Tyler Boyd, that was our consensus wide receiver 30. We have 3 guys on this team in the top 30. That's amazing,
As
right?
you should.
Yeah.
We should, except for the fact that there's not a fucking offensive line. So Joe Burrow is going to be out in week 3.
It is a not good situation.
Look, if
it is scary.
Yeah.
it's scary, it's terrifying. I love all 3 of these guys, Higgins, Chase, and Boyd. If your boy is healthy back there and doesn't get demolished every single time he drops back, I'm all in on any of these 3 guys. I think if you get any of them, you are winning. Those are great options to have. Personally, I like T. Higgins because of the size. That man is monstrous, 6'4" and 216. I think 216 might be a little small for the way he plays. He plays big but fast. So big fan of him. That's where I have him at 18. I think that he's a wide receiver 2 pretty solidly. Again, it's all contingent upon having a quarterback to play. But all of these guys are absolute studs.
That's fair. Wait. I'm looking at something. Did I get this wrong? Ryan's okay. No. You were still higher on T. Higgins than on
Yes, I was. Sorry, T. I didn't answer the question. I guess that's my fault. I am higher on Higgins. Higgins is also going close to the same time as Chase, and that's what I like about it.
Yeah, it's the value play right there. So, I've got Jamar Chase over to. First of all, you guys know I love T. Higgins. He's my dude. I touted him all last season. Was super smug now about y'all higher on T. Higgins than me. I love it. It's the process, right? You trust results, process over results, and this is what happens a season later. So here we go. I've got the whole Adam Thielen, Justin Jefferson thing going on in my men. Jamar Chase for me is the guy that will get the wide receiver rookie. Like, he'll be the number 1 wide receiver rookie next year because everyone's going to be like you guys, all on T. Higgins. They're going to put their number 1 guy on him, and there goes Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow's connection just being so shifty. And that's why I think that Jamar Chase will be higher than T. Higgins overall, like Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen type situation. That's all I got on these guys. Man, it's been about 2 hours. Always super fun to be here with you. We got a little sign-off, send-off. Thank you for the support. We'll see you next week, obviously. Everybody, let's give shout-outs, sign-offs wherever we go. Hold on, let's get back where everyone knows where we are so when we sign off, we're all good to go. Right. Billy, kick us off. What you got? Tell everywhere where they can follow you at. Shout-outs for days.
Yeah, follow me at bwit24. Currently in the middle of my Scott Fishbowl draft, so if you're in, hit me up. Let's talk draft strategies as we dig into these middle rounds. This is where these leagues will be won. Also, sign up for the St. Jude Bowl. Join us. Still have some spots left for the main event, and also going to be kicking off registrations for all the things that Ryan's dreaming up.
Yeah, if you haven't signed up for the St. Jude Bowl yet, what are you doing? We're just waiting for you. Come get involved with this. It's a great charity. We're so excited. I can't wait to get all these other leagues up and running. We've started getting feedback from people already in the St. Jude Bowl that they're going to be in all the other formats. So I'm really excited about that. That's going to be me too. I'm going to be in every one of them. You can find me at Real Ryan Hicks. Hopefully I'll be getting some content pushed out relatively soon. But more than anything, man, it's a St. Jude Bowl season right now. So that's what I've been focusing on completely.
Bill, you brought up Ryan's dreams. I'm just terrified to think of what's in those because it's a scary place.
It's a fantasy football place.
It is. There's a lot of football in there. Wild things of fantasy football you would never imagine. Kickers throwing touchdowns.
We went from Equanimous 3 times fast to Tyler Boyd as the number 1 receiver in Cincinnati in like 3 minutes. That's a roller coaster.
It's a scary place.
Yeah, that
really happens at the end of these shows. It's just wild and crazy.
Yeah. If you haven't signed up for St. Jude, though, I mean, what are you waiting for? The biggest thing, it's even if you don't think you'll win, right? It's all about the fun of it and helping a great cause. That's the biggest part of it. It's helping people that need it. That's the biggest thing I could say about it. Ryan, Billy have put together something great here. If there's a format you like, we probably have. And if there's a format we don't have, tell us, and I'll bet you we can get it going. So
yeah, we want to know.
We're down.
Yeah,
Yep.
Yeah. We will do any format you could imagine. I mean, we've got some crazy stuff out there. And again, if there's something we don't have, tell us, and we'll make it happen for you. And I think, Ryan, you talked about having some content out. There's some things coming here in the works for us.
Yep.
I think we're all very excited for it.
Yeah, I can't wait to write. Looking forward to it.
Super excited for everything to come. Like we've all mentioned, and we're gonna keep touting because it's our show. We get to do whatever we want. It's our show. You guys want to do something, you get your own show. So I'm gonna say sign up for the St. Jude Bowl yet again, guys. The second annual tournament. It helps this. I mean, half the proceeds go straight to St. Jude that we donate for the fantasy first rounders and all of you guys that watch and support. This is why we do this. You know, it's super cool to get on Twitter or whatnot and talk to other analysts and stuff like that. But it's even better when we just look at Twitter or Facebook and there's a comment, there's a message where we actually helped you. That's what we really like. That's what we do this. We don't care about all the other stuff. We're here to win chips for you guys. That's why we spend all this time, so you don't have to. We're going to spend the hours and hours so you don't have to. You can spend 2 hours over the course of a week and have 40 hours worth of stuff. It just makes more sense. So sign up for the St. Jude Bowl. Again, guys, let me look at this chat. What's going on over here? It's getting pretty crazy. Oh, yeah. There we go. Wait. Oh, nice. Okay. But yeah, St. Jude Bowl, second year. Sign up for it. We'll drop the chat. We'll drop the link later in the comments. Follow my guys, my day ones. These guys right here. I put them up against anybody in the industry. Guys, we're your favorite analysts, so don't let them fool you. Stats win ships. Our stats come in packs like Sammy and Dean Martin. Follow my guy, Tom, Ryan, Billy. I'm Chris Pinto at Aggie Kappa Sig. We'll see y'all next week. And then, oh, wait, I got this for you. That song's